A new poll indicates President Obama's party is losing support from independents when it comes to handling the federal government. The Pew survey shows they overwhelmingly prefer Republicans over Democrats when it comes to managing the finances of the federal government. Will Democrats be able to win back these independents before 2012? Here to discuss, Doug Schoen, former advisor to President Clinton, Democratic pollster, Fox News contributor, and my colleague. Doug, it's a pleasure. Welcome Judge. Here. Last Friday night, an hour before midnight, the president, Harry Reid, John Boehner, none of them thrilled, but all of them happy. There was no showdown, each pointing fingers at the other two. Who won, who lost?
Well, Boehner and the Republicans are the big winner. Barack Obama dodged a bullet, metaphorically, because if the government had shut down, it would have been calamitous.
Well, how would it have been calamitous? Politically for him?
Politically for him, he would have looked weak and impotent. And in terms of the spending, he would have looked like he had no control over the federal budget.
Are you surprised at the numbers we just had on the board, the Pew Research numbers that showed independents of all people who really put him in the White House? He obviously had all the Democrats. This is independence. They prefer Republicans 47%, Democrats 28%, not sure 24%. More than half of them don't want the president. Could he win if the vote were tomorrow and the independents voted as they told the pollsters they would vote?
Wouldn't win. And the reason he's got to make the speech he's going to do tomorrow is he's concluded, I think, that unless he comes up with a meaningful, balanced budget plan, he's not going to get reelected. This is ultimately about his survival.
But do you really think that a very, very liberal Democrat, whom I've described as halfway to socialism, I know you don't accept that, but you understand how people feel that way, would come up with a balanced budget, a budget where he didn't have to borrow any money? He borrows money like no president in history.
I understand. And the real question is, will he embrace something I support and most centrist Democrats support, which is the Bowles-Simpson plan? Two-thirds spending cuts, one-third tax increases. Unclear what the tax increases would be, but 2-to-1 spending cuts over taxes.
This is the so-called debt commission.
That's correct.
Which he appointed, which he cajoled a little bit, and then the results of which he pretty much ignored.
And ran away from,
All right. Does he gain anything if tomorrow he says, when he addresses the nation, I want to raise taxes on people who make more than $200,000 and $250,000. This is the same president who 4 months ago signed into law an extension of the Bush-era tax rates.
Judge, the part of this that doesn't make any sense is you've had 3 Republicans, Saxby Chambliss, Mike Crapo, and I'm drawing
Tom Coburn.
And Tom Coburn.
You're talking about the Gang of Six.
Right. The Republicans have all said they'll countenance tax increases, but they're not going to go for taxes on the wealthy. The Democratic base wants it, but the mainstream doesn't. The president has buried his own story before he's gotten his plan out.
So is this speech tomorrow just to energize the Democratic base? Stated differently, does the president of the United States have a problem with the left wing of his own party?
He's got 2 problems. Scott Rasmussen's polling shows that the base is moving away precipitously. And in the center, as the Pew numbers showed, the president is down to about a quarter of the independents supporting his fiscal policies. So he's trying to bridge the gap with a plan that who knows what it's going to ultimately say.
Does he face a political threat from the left wing of his party? Meaning, could an incumbent president, for the first time since, I think, Jimmy Carter, be forced to run in primaries in his own party just to assure himself the renomination for the presidency?
I don't think he's going to have a primary, but I do think he's going to have trouble rallying a heretofore compliant liberal base. That really is an issue. The larger issue, Judge, is the American people get what you've been saying. Whether you agree or disagree with some of the specific points you made, bottom line, unless there is fiscal discipline reigning in the debt and the deficit, we're not going to reelect the president, and we're not going to carry on as a nation as we are. The American people understand it. That's why Obama's giving the speech.
Would you advise him to give that speech tomorrow in which he's going to talk about raising taxes on the so-called rich, which he characterizes as people making more than $200,000
Raising taxes on the rich? No, not after the deal. Balanced budget, reigning in the debt and the deficit. He's got to do it. It's essential.
Doug Schoen, it's a pleasure. Thanks very much for joining us. President Obama set to unveil his plan to tackle our $14 trillion deficit. How will his ideas stack up against the Republican proposal? My colleague Lou Dobbs weighs in on that next.